You see, Arnold, it's time for me to leave here. Some people are meant to be with people, and others, like me, are just different.
Pigeon Man! Wait. None of this would have happened if I hadn't...
Arnold, don't be sad. You've taught me that some people can be trusted, and I'll never forget that.
Aren't you glad?
You watching, Nick? Aren't you glad? You watching, Nick?
Alright, to get this out of the way, Hey Arnold is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. Not just within the Nicktoons. It's not my absolute favorite Nicktoon, that's Avatar, but Hey Arnold would probably be my second, unless I come across some really big surprise this winter. I don't know if I'd put Hey Arnold in my top 10 absolute favorite cartoons, but it certainly is in the top 20. I've actually heard all kinds of reactions to the show, some of which surprised me, but I get it. Hey Arnold is a cartoon that's not really like any other, at least for the time it was created. It came out in the mid-90s, when cartoons were more wild and out there than they had ever been before. And here's Hey Arnold, which is a show that's a lot quieter, a lot more subtle, and there pretty much isn't an episode of the show that couldn't take place in reality. Although it did have quite a bit of cartoonish exaggeration here and there. There definitely are some superficial resemblances to Doug, and Doug has problems. Hey Arnold is a slice-of-life cartoon on the subtle side of the tracks. It can be slow, and I definitely get that's not for everyone. When some people want to watch cartoons, they want to laugh, and Hey Arnold is not a show that focuses on that. There are definitely jokes here and there. Arnold's grandmother is a pretty hilarious character, all things considered, but story and heart takes more focus than anything else in this show. Doug took place in the small town of Bluffington, while Hey Arnold takes place in a huge city called Hillwood. Yes, this series is going to be a good excuse to fix many of the details that I got wrong in my former reviews.
Arnold, it's the day before Christmas! There's millions of people in this city!
Big cities like this are very diverse places with a wide array of characters, and the cast of Hey Arnold is more than colorful. There are so many different sided characters and extras that I still remember strongly today, from Arnold's teacher, Mr. Simmons, to the butcher, Mr. Green. The boarding house in which Arnold lives is also filled with all kinds of interesting characters. They do follow typical archetypes, like Oscar is the no-name loser who is completely unreliable, but even in these cases, the show gives them big and strong personalities. Not necessarily loud personalities, but strong personalities. Hey Arnold is a good showcase that a character doesn't need to over-emote and shout all the time in order to really stand out. You remember each and every person that you encounter while watching Hey Arnold. Even some of the background characters have something distinct about them. The only character that I think suffers and isn't quite up to par is, well, Arnold himself, unfortunately. Yeah, I think that even most fans of the series will agree that the personality of the titular character is the weakest of them all. At the start of the show, he was really bland. How was it put way back when? Just an average kid that no one understands? It is another similarity to Doug. Although I will have to defend Arnold from those absolute comparisons. Arnold doesn't quote-unquote feel very often, but when he does, he can feel very strong. We actually see him get angry at times, fed up, sad, afraid. There is a gamut of emotions that you didn't really see with Doug. Although the most interesting things about Arnold tends to be the things that aren't his personality. He lives in a boarding house with his grandparents. His actual parents went missing in the jungle, and he has a pet pig named Abner. If you don't know, this is not a good way to make a character stand out or be really interesting at all. A character's environment or even their hobbies is not their personality. I don't think I ever cared about that problem though, because you do need a balance in every sense of the word. Because Arnold is, let's call him quiet, it allowed the stories to be about just about anyone else in the entire city. In a Mr. Wynn episode, Wynn is going to be the one who's going to dominate the screen presence over Arnold. Although I will have to say that Flanderization did hit Arnold as a character, and it could get quite distracting. I know. How do you Flanderize a character that has very little personality? Well, he started as a good kid, always willing to help those around him. By the end of the series, he was basically Jesus, going out of his way to solve everyone and anyone's problems without any flaws of his own. It's not as bad as other series because, it's in the opposite direction of most shows. In most cases, slenderization is where they ramp up the character's flaw more and more each episode. So, it's another thing that didn't really bother me, although I could see it bothering some people. Because what's good in this show is the thing that I find most important to me, and that's the storytelling and the heart within it. In fact, this Nicktoon may have more heart than any other. In terms of slice of life, Hey Arnold is the best at it, from pretty much every cartoon that I've ever watched. That's because the show has a hell of a lot of heart, and it was willing to take risks that most other cartoons at the time were not. Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life were fully okay with referencing things that only adults would get, and shooting crap past the radar. Rocko would attack adult issues with a childish edge. Even episodes like Leapfrogs were meant to tell jokes, not actually delve into the issue of adultery. While Hey Arnold never dealt with adultery as far as I remember, it's hard to think of anything else that it didn't at least try to do. The episodes dealing with Helga's family are perhaps the biggest example of that. Helga came from an abusive home, and while the show didn't outright state it, they didn't sugarcoat it and showcased it for the reality that it was. Both of Helga's parents preferred Olga to Helga and displayed clear parental favoritism. This gave Olga a lot of pressures to the point where she essentially had panic attacks and broke down crying when Helga made her think that she got a B from college. Big Bob was a scummy scam artist, while Helga's mother was an alcoholic. I'm not even exaggerating. The censors told Craig Bartlett that they couldn't show it directly, but they got around it by always having Miriam drink smoothies. One of the ingredients shown is Tabasco sauce, which is used in many alcoholic mixes. It's usually used in a Bloody Mary, which is used as a hangover cure. At one point, Helga even asks her mother if she got her license back, implying that she had a DUI. That's just one of the more famous examples. Even one-off characters get a surprising amount of depth, with their stories taken incredibly seriously. Sometimes they do metaphors, like Chocolate Boy's Chocolates is a stand-in for a typical addiction, but other times they don't do that at all, and tell the story as straight as possible. Pigeon Man is probably one of the most well-known episodes of the series. It goes heavily into being an outcast, and learning that some people can be trusted. And of course, there's Arnold's Christmas. If you could only watch one episode of that show, hell, any show, I'd recommend watching that one. It goes deep into being separated from a family member. Not just any family member, but a child, due to war. It's something that I and many others watch every single Christmas.
The only way out of the city was by helicopter. There were too many people. I begged the soldier, please take us. Help us find a new life. But he could not. He said there was only room for one of us. Then I had to make the most difficult decision of my life. I knew I had to do the best thing for Mai. I knew if I gave Mai to the soldier, they would take care of her.
Oscar Can't Read is another good episode like this, where it's revealed that our favorite loser, Oscar, is illiterate. And instead of making fun of him and treating him like, well, a loser, the episode goes into the struggles that Oscar has, and not just reading, but getting over himself. Believe it or not, his episodes tend to be universally interesting, and that is something that I can say about the storytelling of the show as a whole. Hey Arnold has this reputation where every single episode is this deep renaissance of storytelling. It's not. Not every single episode is like the ones that I just mentioned. These episodes do come out more often than you expect, but other times the stories are just down-to-earth slice-of-life bits. Even when the stories aren't deep, though, I do find them incredibly interesting. Stories like A Ghost Train That Drags You Down to Hell, a tribute to 12 Angry Men where Eugene is framed for pulling the fire drill, 4th graders trying to avoid being thrown into trash cans by the 5th graders. They're all really interesting. Even something that doesn't seem incredibly grand, like a food eating contest or a teacher strike, I find myself more than a little involved with what's going on in the story, and most of it is memorable. The show can be really chill, for lack of a better word, and that's helped with the aesthetics. I just love the watercolor backgrounds and the relaxing background music. be a nostalgia thing because just listening to some of the background music in the show brings me right back to my childhood, where you didn't really have to worry about much and everything was just so calm. I might be a little bit biased with this one, although I didn't consider this show my life or anything as a kid. It's one of those shows that you like a lot, but only realize that you loved looking back. It's kind of the same way I feel with Hunchback of Notre Dame. As a kid, I liked it for this and that, but as an adult, I like it for so much more, and the more that I watch it, the more I appreciate it, and the more that I respect it. And I'm sure as time goes on, I'll like the show more and more. Stay away from the theatrical movie, though. That's a piece of poop that I'll get to later. Jungle movie was okay, though.
Next on Nickelodeon.
It's Kablam!
Once we were a team, we worked side by side. You were my dedication and my single source of pride. Then you kicked me on my can, tossed me out into the cold. Did you think that I'd fold? Well, I won't because I'm bold. I will prevail, I will not fail. You may have thrown me out the door, but I won't cry or weep or wail. Oh, I'll weather the storm too. Yes, I'll keep on smiling through. And while I'm turning blue, I'll simply send my thanks to you. I will prevail.